What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to our channel. It's your favorite YouTube couple, S.L.A.J Family, back at you guys with another video. Today, guys, we are talking about roommates. We definitely have had our share of roommates. And, I mean, the question is, like, would we ever have roommates again? What are the pros and cons of having roommates? If you guys want to know what our thoughts are, stay tuned for the video. Let's get it. We're about to go in. Alright, y'all, so I'm gonna start off this video. I'll probably have to take it back to 2004. I'm 17 years old, 17 and a half. I'm still living at home with my grandma. Me and my brother, we couldn't really like do a lot of the things that all the other kids was doing as far as like hanging out and stuff like that. Almost immediately when me and my brother turned 18, we moved out the house. And we ended up moving in with some of our friends that we actually went to school with. It was two dudes that actually moved to Monterey from New York. Actually, they was here to play basketball, and they got an apartment. And so me and my brother, we moved in, and at this time, keep in mind, we had no job, so we wasn't making no kind of money. We had we was broke. Like we had no money, right? We wasn't thinking about that. We just wanted to get out.
You guys were young.
Long story short. Yeah, they was young. They was in high school with us. Mm-hmm. So like a long story short, as we're living with them, right? Like, you know, the little, like they would get like, they had like little food and stuff. And like, you know, of course, you know, you got to eat, right? So, and me and my brother, we didn't have no money. We had no job. So we would kind of like eat some of their stuff. And they was at a point where like, you know, they didn't have nothing. So it was like, you know, like we really can't have y'all just like eating our stuff like that. But it wasn't a cool, respective kind of way. But that was the reason we ended up like moving out from them.
What did you learn from that lesson as far as like your first roommate? Like you said,
I didn't really learn nothing from that. To
be honest
with you, nah. It was just it was just like something that
just
happened, and I just moved
on
from
it.
Yeah. So I'm young. I'm 18 years old. So I wasn't like nothing clicked for me at that time. Yeah, and so yeah, I ended up moving with one of my best friend and his mom. And me and him is actually staying in the same room. At this time, I actually did have a job because one of my counselors actually at my high school, he actually, I don't know what he did, but he pulled some strings.
Did you ask
and got
him?
we didn't even ask him.
So how did they know
we had like a, you know what, we kind of like sat down with him. I don't know how it came about. I just remember like we ended up sitting down with him. Oh, and I think we were talking about, you know how you have like when you're in school and you sit down with your counselor basically like planning out to go to your future, like for college and all that. That's what it was. Oh. So, and he ended up basically like setting us up with an interview at Safeway. Yeah, it was cool. I never forget that. He set us up with a interview at Safeway for me and my brother. Mm-hmm. And we both ended up getting a job, so we're working at Safeway. So at this time, we are making money. And not like I said, I moved in with my friend and his mom, and I'm renting out a room, but I'm in the same room as my friend. Like me and him are basically in the same room, and I'm renting out his room basically. I lived there with him for probably like about, I want to say maybe like a year like that. Mm-hmm. And then we ended up moving from that place with the same friend and got another place, which was actually bigger. So then I ended up renting out the garage, which I like turned into a room and all that. Mm-hmm. It was kind of cool. And we lived there for probably about a year and a half, mm-hmm. right? A year and a half. And then what happened there was they ended up getting evicted from that place. So they were getting evicted, and I was stuck in a place where I was like, I would have had nowhere to go. And at this time, me and Lon were already together. So at that point in time, it was like we decided to move in together.
We moved
a few different places.
3 different apartments first apartment, we got kicked out because we ended up getting Rocco, which is our dog.
Our dog, yeah. And we weren't supposed to have dogs, but we like snuck him in, and we would try to sneak around and take him out to pee and all this stuff. And then they found out, so we had to. They told us either get rid of the dog or we would have to move out. So we chose to move out because I give it to my dog. What are you talking about?
And then we moved back to Salinas. We found a place where they accepted dogs.
Yep.
And we stayed there for about a year and a half. In that area, there was a lot of gun shooting. There was a lot of violence. There was a lot of... Someone got killed in front of our apartment, too.
Did they?
Yeah, they did.
Huh?
It was kind of crazy. We were there for a year and a half. So about 3 years total. We were together for about 3 years. And then we first got our first, as a couple, had our first roommate.
My friend was living with his girlfriend and her mom, but it was some kind of issue there with the mom and all that, so he ended up having to move out.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna go into that, but he ended up having to move out from her, and he ended up asking me if he can stay with us, or did I offer?
I have no idea.
I can't remember if he asked me or if I told him he can just move in with me, but.
I think you felt bad. And
I felt bad,
them, do you want to come this way? But let me ask Lon first. You came home and you asked me.
Yeah, I think that's how it went.
And he was basically saying, his mom got evicted. Now he's living with the girlfriend's mom, and she's not feeling it. So I said, well,
he would have had nowhere to go.
Since he's your best friend and...
He's my best friend.
Yeah, since he's your best friend, okay, we'll give it a try. But mind you, we've been together for 5 years, living alone. 4.5 years, living just us two alone, and then they came in.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, let's give it a try. Since he's your best friend, let's give it a try.
Yep.
So that same night.
They moved in that night, huh? That's correct. It was
they both came. I thought it was just the guy.
You didn't know she was coming, right?
Yeah, I didn't know she was coming, so they both came.
Yeah, it literally was it literally was that quick. Like the very night the day he asked me, the day I told him I would talk to Lon about if they could move in, and then she was like, all right, I guess so. They moved in that same night without no separation, nothing in between. They moved in.
He went, picked them up, because it's right down the street.
It was right down the street.
Picked them up and came down this way.
So they moved in. They moved in.
Rent free for about...
Yeah, because he wasn't working at the time. And was she working?
She wasn't working until the later end of the year.
The later end. Yeah. So they basically moved in with us, and we was paying all the rent. They wasn't paying nothing at all.
All the PG&E, at this time. We took care of everything. For me, it was good for the first 6 months, 1 year.
Yeah.
He was still cool.
I was cool. See, and that's the thing. In the beginning, it's fun.
It was fun for him in the beginning. It was. It was cool for me because he was not my friend. He was his friend. I felt stressed because when Stefan would be at work, I was stuck in the room.
Yeah.
They were living out in the living room.
They were, yes.
Yeah, they were just always in the living room, and I had to be stuck in my room.
Because we only had a 1-bedroom at that time.
Usually I have, and then when they have to use the restroom, they have to go into the room and use the restroom, and I'm like, okay.
It was the only bedroom in the bathroom in our room?
In our room. It was in our room.
It
was in our room. And it was just stressful because when I come home from work, he chill with him. And 5 years, 4.5 years we were together, and I had him all to myself. And now I feel like he's in a relationship with somebody else within the same house. Every time I come home from work, he's with him. And I'm like, dude, bro, I didn't mind if he went out and did his own thing with his friends and all that all day, whatever, however he wants to do it. I was fine with that. But as soon as he came home, he would be with me, and it would just only be us two. Now it wasn't like that. Mm-hmm. So after 6 months to a year, maybe I started feeling a little bit fed up. I felt like I didn't have him anymore. I felt like we were doing too much. I felt like I was working all the time and paying for all the bills. And he was working too, and he wasn't realizing it though, but it was just a lot of thinking like, why are we doing this? Why can't they go and get a job? She ended up getting a job, but it was part-time, but we didn't ask them to pay for rent or anything, so they were rent-free for a year and a half.
A year? Was it that long?
For a year to a year and a half. I can't remember.
Having it made.
Yeah, that was tough for me because our relationship started going bad. Because I would always be arguing with him, and then when he get mad, I'm in the room and he's outside with them, and I'm like, dude, you know, it.
I think back now, I'm like, dang, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's fun in the beginning, but then things starts getting serious. You know, like things start making me feel like I'm being taken advantage of. So
I didn't get it at the time, but I look back and I'm like, I see where you was coming from, because it didn't hit me in the same way that it hit her until we moved to Marina. Because
it was your friend, it's not my friend.
I know,
so
I get it. I know.
You know, sometimes I don't even want to go home. Sometimes I'll be off by like 2 o'clock, and I wouldn't even walk in the house until 5 o'clock. That's how serious it was. Because I felt like I felt like you weren't there with me. You know. So then we moved to Marina, and before we moved to Marina...
But why did we move to Marina?
Because our lease was up.
The lease was up. Right,
so we decided, let's go to Marina. But I told him, I said, before we even bother to move in with them, they need to help pay for the bills. At least half the rent, and we can take care of PG&E and everything else. Just at least pay half the rent. So that's what they did. They pay for half of that rent.
They were paying half the rent, and basically, actually, she was his girl was paying for half of the rent, because he actually at this time still wasn't working. So his girl was working and paying for his portion of the rent, and I kind of started to get annoyed, because not only was I hearing Lon in my ear, and she kept saying, you know, she was complaining about how like he would basically like be there all the time,
all day.
So it's like, and then like during the like at times when I would be at work, so you know, sometimes he would even have like friends come over, and they would just be in the living room and stuff, and like she kind of even felt weird just going to the kitchen to get something to eat, because he has all, you know, some of our friends over, and she kind of felt weird. And she would always tell me, you know, about that and stuff like that. So it basically, it got to the point where I had to like talk to him about it. I don't know exactly how I said it, but I was basically saying like, you're here all the time, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, I'm like, you're here with my girl more than I'm here with her. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I felt like it was kind of weird. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't even on like no jealousy type stuff. I'm just like, that's weird to have another dude at the house with my girl more than I'm there, because I have to work.
That's what you started.
So it was kind of weird.
That this is kind of like,
yeah, it was just weird, and like he kind of took it because I'm like another man telling another man that he should get a job. He kind of like took it offensive, which now I can understand why he would have. At the time, I wasn't really thinking like that, because I'm like just in the situation, and I'm just telling him how I felt at that particular time. So it's like now when I think back about it, I'm like, okay, maybe I could have approached it in a different kind of way. But at the same time, I feel like I shouldn't even have been in a situation to have to say that to somebody. I feel like, I feel like as a man, like you should kind of know that it's your responsibility to at least work and make your own money. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I felt like it was just a lose-lose situation for me. So after I told him that, he took it offensive. And I think he ended up like telling his mom about it and stuff like that.
They came and spoke with us.
And
something happened, and we ended up deciding let's just go
to move out. We ended up deciding to move out.
He wasn't happy about it, so we ended up leaving.
His mom ended up taking over our part of the lease, so she ended up moving in with him. And from there,
it just got worse.
Yeah, I mean,
it just got worse.
I'm gonna talk about that in another video, about what happened between me and him after that. So I'm gonna just say, at that particular point in time, we moved out. His mom moved in with them, and that was that. Without giving everything away. So I guess, I mean, like, the moral of this story is
make sure that you guys have the business part down before you even move in. Bro. And what do you call it when you're committed? Like, make sure you have all the business part down before you commit to a relationship. It is not just roommate, it's a relationship.
Like, you have to know, like, is that person reliable? Like, is that person able to hold down a job? Is that person able to, you know, do they have a stable income? Because let's just say, like, if you sign a year lease or whatever it is that person reliable? Do you know that that person is able to keep a job for an extended period of time? Like, are they always in between jobs? Are they always getting a job and getting fired? Because it doesn't matter if you have a job in the beginning of signing your lease. If you get fired like 6 months into it, you still owe for the rest of that lease. So you got to understand who you're dealing with, what type of people you're dealing with, because like I said before, it's always fun in the beginning. It's kind of like a relationship, right? Like, in the beginning, it's all fun, it's all peaches and cream. You only know the good thing about the other person. But then a few months down the road, you know, you get into your first argument, you end up moving in together, and then you start seeing the person for who they really are. And then you're like, okay, man, I don't know, like, this is different now. So it's kind of like the same thing when it comes to roommates. Like, you might move in with your friend and it's cool in the beginning because it's like, you know, you're seeing your homie all the time and it's cool. But then, like, once the business aspect comes into play and it's time to pay for them bills, now it's kind of like you find yourself between a rock and a hard place. If that person is not keeping up their if they're not keeping up on their end of everything. So at the end of the day, would I have a roommate ever again?
Nah.
Nah.